back to another Well Workplaces podcast episode. I'm here with Dr. Natalie Flatt again. Natalie, how you doing?
I'm okay, Tom. How are you?
Doing well, doing really well. What are you
Got that bub in the back. Where's the bub? The bub's not asleep. Oh, damn.
Yeah. Well, for those watching or listening, I'm in my son's bedroom today, and there's a little cot in the background. So I've just mixed it up. My wife's in my little cubby, and she's holding the fort there. So we're changing it up. He's not here, so I'll be completely uninterrupted, and there won't be any crying or any tantrums. So that's a win. But yeah, we're coming up to the end of the year. Nat, what are your main feelings coming into the end of the year for you personally?
Oh, look, Tom, relief. Just a bit of excitement. With the little kids, it's always a little bit more of anticipation. You're thrown into the, tonight's a bit about putting up the Christmas tree. So there is always that little bit of magic in the air. But, to me, that's super special because it's, although being a very battering year, it's nice to, aim to finish that on a high with making some special memories and really trying to get some nice photos. Realize that, when you flick through your memories, there haven't been a huge amount of photos this year, not like normal. So, yeah, looking forward to that. How about yourself?
Yeah, I think for me, it's just relief as well, to be honest. It's been a hectic year. I feel like the last 2 years are a blur and they're all mixed together. The weekend just gone, my wife and I celebrated our 8th wedding anniversary because we forgot the last 2 years because of COVIDs and babies and things like that. So I'm feeling like at the end of the year, I probably just need that time to reflect and also just enjoy the time with family and be present. And yeah, be mindful of, I guess, the fact that we have made it through another year, and it's been tough, but it's also been really great. And there's some really nice things to sort of hang on to from the year and also last year as well. And so I guess that's a nice segue into what we're talking about, Nat, which is really around how to embrace the simple things in life. And I feel like because the year has been a funny one again, there will be some gold in some of the experiences that you've had, and there'll be a lot of perspective as well that maybe has been gained through, I guess you might call it, adversity as well. What do you think, or what are your thoughts on that?
You're so right there, because the greatest thing, about these hard times is that they always teach us, some form of lesson, and they show us how strong we can be and how we can adapt and really keep our heads above water in those really difficult times. And I think that we had a lot of opportunity to stop and think about things that what was the most important to us. Like we definitely had those light bulb moments, over that time where a lot of the noise, it was diminished at certain times, or we had to, process things in a different form or entertain ourselves in a different way. Maybe that, what we weren't used to because we were, trying to beat the monotony of some of those days there. And a lot of those times did reflect about that simplicity in life. I'm pretty sure that everyone had gone for a walk. If it was in their 5 kilometre, 10 kilometre, 25 kilometre, whatever zone we were in at the time, especially in Victoria. But, being able just to go to the beach, go to a park, bake. Everyone did the baking, didn't they? Everyone did the board games. Everyone tried to do little things that would entertain them. More often than not, if we would look back at those, they were the things that they're really quite simple and they were really quite cost effective. We weren't rushing out and really buying materials in that time. Like online shopping obviously did go up, but after a while, especially, when we're talking to some friends and colleagues, they said how much that actually started to diminish. It started to become a little bit boring, even with something like, the Uber Eats and doing, a lot of the creating and making your own things. A lot of people then started pulling that back and starting to bake again at home and creating, a lot of those old school cookbook and recipes that they got a lot of joy out of. So it's really interesting when we're talking to clients about they coming back to and really enjoying the simple things in life. What a lot of ours are really afraid of is interesting how you just said, what are you looking forward to moving forward? A lot of our clients will turn around and say, look, I'm really anxious that the things that were actually really I was enjoying and I really loved, I want to maintain those, but I'm feeling that once I then get pulled back into the wave of everything opening up and going on that auto drive again, that I'm going to lose those. And so it's quite fascinating that they feel quite that lack of control has started to come back into their life, and they don't want to, and they feel like they're going to be falling back into those old habits where, materials are, it's all about the material shopping and living and lifestyle, and doing everything, like really, Tinseltown, and everything's got to have this high expectation, where they're failing to to admit or to see that, the beauty in the world is certainly not wrapped up in a big red bow, figuratively
Yeah.
speaking.
Yeah, yeah, of course. Yeah, it's a really good point. I guess this Christmas period time and also the end of the year can create some anxiety for a lot of people around, because it is Christmas. It's also the end of the working year, and they're probably also, people are probably also anticipating the new year, and obviously there's some unknowns, and also that we know that return to work, or return to the office, sorry, should I say, is it's just a sort of a thought in the background, which can maybe create a little bit of anxiety. But I think for people, if you can kind of draw out some of those memories that you do have through lockdown, or some of those more simple things, you can probably then, the key then is probably then to try and figure out how to keep that in your life going forward. Do you have any sort of thoughts around best practice, or best ways to, or how are you advising your clients to keep some of that, or to prioritize that? Is there any magical methods to it, or is it? I'm sure it's quite simple, but what do you think?
There's a few things here, Tom, that that I think that it's all about coming back and being mindful. And, there's obviously a hell of a lot of gratefulness in there. Like, we really want to be able to practice that gratitude. But the mindfulness, it was, I did the Beyond Blue fun run on Sunday, and it was awesome. It was a sea of blue, and it was blue everywhere. It was the blue t-shirts, the blue ocean, the blue sky. And it was so uplifting, and it was challenging. I'm not a huge runner, but, again, it was something I decided that was my little challenge over the whole year, and to kind of continue to pull myself back into that whole process of like really taking in all the senses, and encompassing that whole experience in the present moment, and not worrying about the future, not worrying about the past, just worrying about literally putting one step in front of the other. It made me realize like that, how important that was to me. And having my kids on the sideline, giving them a high five, and I think it was again, it was something that you gave back to the community. It was something that I'm really passionate about. Obviously, mental health is something that I got my family involved in, and it was also a bit of a challenge. And if you add all this up together, it doesn't have to come at a cost. It's actually quite a simple thing, and that's probably where when we look at trying to create what is the ultimate happiness. Happiness is going to be differed to every single person, but it's got to be also based on your purpose. Why are you here? Why do you do the job that you do? What is important to you in your life, and what you are doing, does that align to your purpose? So it is a great reflection exercise that I do a lot with the clients, and a lot of our practitioners do as well, because it really opens the doors to go, yeah, why do I do that? And who am I doing that for? Because if it doesn't benefit me, I need to question why I'm doing it. So it really kind of nuts out all the people pleasers, and also gives them a really good understanding about where they would like to be, and creating those levels of boundaries there, because that's what we want. We want to have that element of control. Especially over the last 2 years, we realized that how much that control was taken away from us. To be able to gain that element of control is a component of our happiness. It is a component of our fulfillment, and also our life satisfaction. So it all kind of comes into one. And also, when you are trying to work out, your purpose, it's always great to reflect upon that activity, or that situation, or that experience. How did that make me feel? I know I say that often on these podcasts, Tom, but it is so important to keep on doing that self-check-in, because this is what's going to create that little beautiful bubble for you. And we do a lot about the happiness. It's not so much about the materials, and we know that so many people have been doing it tough, and we really want to acknowledge that is not what it's about. Tom and I were just talking, weren't we, Tom, about I think in our area, especially over lockdown, Uber drivers became like a bit of a shortage. So, we'd have friends and family saying, oh, I took 2 hours to get this pizza and whatnot. And I said, why are you doing that? And I said, what do you mean? And I said, well, I'm just too tired. I can't be bothered cooking. And I said, okay, let's think about the process of the cooking of the pizza. It's like the rolling of the dough. You can then, create the pizza topping competitions with each of your family members. It's putting it in the oven. It's creating that amazing smell throughout the house. And it's having the ability to pull it right out, to cut it straight up, and then to serve it on the plate and sit around as a family. It was not so much about getting the pizza and having it delivered. It's about the process of making the pizza and what memories they'd form. And I know that's a really simplistic analogy there, but that's probably what I'm trying to highlight, is that it doesn't always, you can still have the product at the end, but it's actually about, how that was actually created, and maybe even the laughs and the discussions that were had, rather than sitting and waiting and watching TV and waiting for the doorbell to ring. So a completely different experience, but still getting the same product. And that's something that, a lot of us ended up doing, but it doesn't have to be lost. So, really going back over the last 2 years and reflecting upon what was important to you and how you are still going to be able to keep this in your life. May not be as consistent as it may have been, because we've got to be realistic. Life's going to kind of get busy at certain times. But if little things were really important to you, especially as we're home, still working from home a lot, and into school sports has opened up, or extracurricular sports have opened up, and you really like to be able to take your child to training, like, go for it. If that's something that's about your purpose, try and make that happen. Talking it through, negotiating, trying to create that open discussion will allow you to provide that control, and really equate to, or add another bean to the bucket, to reach your level of happiness there.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I love the purpose alignment, or trying to get that right. And I think sometimes I find when people talk, sometimes for people, when you say, "Oh, what's your purpose?" or "Have you thought about it?" For that question, I'm imagining that's quite a challenging one to just go, "Oh, yeah, my purpose is this." But if you can do the self check-in, and it's more about how do you feel when you do this, as you were saying before, that starts to tease out, I think, a little bit of your purpose. I think when you're just asking yourself that, though, sometimes people find that challenging. Is that what you experience with clients, or do they just come up with the answer straight away?
Yeah, we try and even get like a little diary over the last
Mm,
week.
yeah.
It's, and I think that's really something that's really interesting to open up, because you to say, Saturday I went shopping at a shopping centre.
Yeah.
It's really interesting to say, why did you do that? Oh, because I wanted to buy this. And other people said, oh, it's actually because I wanted to spend time with a friend, and we catch up, and we laugh at each other when we're putting on different types of clothes. And so is it, interestingly, is it about the materials, or is it about the company? And
Mm,
they start to nut that out and to go, actually, it's actually about the person that I'm with, and the experience that they provide when I'm doing that. So it just gives it just a bit of a different perspective, I suppose, a deeper perspective. But yes, when you put people on the spot, a lot of people don't know how to ask that, and that's okay. So, but we can definitely record it, and we can, create that little diary, over a week or so, and that starts to really nut out what's going to be important to you. Mm.
yeah. No, that's great. And I think, as we kind of look ahead as well, with um, trying to find or maintain that perspective, and then summarizing what are the more simple things that we've practiced through the last year that we've enjoyed. For example, pizza making with the kids, or for us at our house. To give another kid example, it's we started doing board games, and we kind of got right into that. And this morning, I'd played a board game with my son, even though he didn't really understand what was going on, but it was still that idea of pulling it out, playing the game, instead of what would be autopilot in maybe a former life would be TV, perhaps, as a bad example of setting your kids up for school while you're trying to get your shit together for the day. So pulling on some of those, like those basic things. I guess what we're really talking about here is how to create your your happiness, really, I guess, going forward and into the future. And before getting on this podcast, you and I, we talked a little bit about the different countries across the world, and there's been some studies, some global studies by I think it's by the World Health Organization, where they've looked at the happiness index for all the different countries in the world, and interestingly enough, Australia was kind of in the top 10 or in the mix, as was New Zealand. But really the top countries were Finland, Norway, I guess the Nordic countries. And it was quite interesting to kind of think about, well, what makes those countries so good from a happiness ranking? And recently it was they redid the happiness surveys or index based on what's happened through the last 2 years. And those 3 countries, they were kind of all really unchanged despite the chaos. So it's just interesting to sort of see at a global level, why are those countries so happy? What makes them so good? What did you think of that? Did you read a little bit of that?
They're really beautiful, and they they really value nature. Also from an environmental impact, they do quite a lot in that area. But what I found really interesting regarding organizations is that they have a lot of say. And their whole people come in together, and they kind of they have this ability to be able to create those discussions together. So it's a very empathic level of communication, and it comes at quite a flat level of organisation structure, where everyone has that ability, that once they come to the company with an idea, that idea is actually taken quite seriously, and then a lot of the times it can even be voted. And so once we know that when we have and throw our idea in the mix, and then all of a sudden our idea is taken up, then we've got this level of accountability, and that accountability creates control, and that control creates fulfillment and life satisfaction, and then ultimately that then adds to our happiness factor as well. So it was quite amazing to actually read that, and a really good leaf to take into, out of their book, just to really take into the Australian workplace next year, by allowing, people to be able to have their say, and once the employees are able just to feel like they're really part of a solution, they're more likely to create that positive behaviour change, which is going to be able to assist with protection of organisational burnout, which is something that America have felt and are currently feeling, and we are certainly trying to protect our workplaces on. So definitely a really good read, Tom. I would encourage everyone to have a bit of a read about that, and a little bit of a think. But a lot of them, they ride their bikes to work, and they've got all that whole setup, and they really incorporate nature, and nature's a major plays a major factor in the simplicity of life. And I talk about this often, looking at the fractals in the world, and those, I suppose, the fractals that the mathematical equation for a never-ending pattern, and what that does to the brain. But being able to be out in those areas where you're really gaining that perspective a lot is something that is really starting to gain a lot of speed from a therapeutic intervention. And the article that we were talking about, the UK base, that they've done a bit of a calculation that if you were to get out and forest bathe around between half an hour and 2 hours a week, it was saving, it was saving hundreds and thousands of euro on hospital entrance from a mental health perspective. So it was actually impacting and creating a socioeconomic advantage by people going out and going for these walks, in forests. So a great way to bring that into Australia as well. We've got the most beautiful country. We need to utilise that a lot more.
Yeah, exactly. And just to add to that as well, I think it was in 2018 in Scotland, in a specific part of Scotland, the GPs started it was allowed to start prescribing what they call outdoor RX, or RX meaning, for those non-medical, that just means treatment, so outdoor treatment. And so instead of going, and I guess in those types of temperatures or climates, where it gets really, you've probably been in the UK when it's winter, it's very dark, so you kind of miss out on some of that those natural benefits of sunlight. So that the GPs in this particular area were basically prescribing getting outdoors. And I guess now that we're going through or coming out of, fingers crossed, out of this COVID scenario, there's also talk of social, like basically prescribing social interaction as well, which is kind of a bit of a weird concept given that we're humans and we not naturally crave that. But if people are going through, a lot of mental health issues, and rather than just going down the route of prescription and the medical approach, why not consider social interaction and actually prescribing that? Now, I don't know the ins and outs of how you actually make that happen, but in theory, it's a great sort of concept, isn't it?
Absolutely. I like, the benefits of exercise and being outdoors it's just unbelievable. Like, which, and again, it's free, isn't it? It's simple.
That's right. Yeah.
Has to be, and you can go. We don't need a fancy gym membership, to be able to get fit, and to be able to lead a healthy lifestyle. Like, it's all on our back door. So don't overlook that. And it's who you share it with and it's how you do it that is going to be based on your personality moving forward. And, if it is getting back into the office, then make it work. If it's in the morning or if it's at night, it just might be that bit of reshuffling of timetable to still be able to reach that ultimate, happiness through those simplicities.
Yeah. Going back to what you were saying earlier around creating, I guess, taking a mental note of the things that you've enjoyed through the lockdown periods or the last year and a bit. Is there anything that you'd like to add to creating your happiness list? Is there anything else to add to that around your purpose alignment, that kind of thing? Or is that roughly, have we covered all that properly?
Look, it's a little bit. It depends on how people might like to map it out. Dare I say, or mind map it. We've got on our fridge at home it's very cute though. The boys did as a cloud, and they've got rainbow strips under it, and then on the rainbow strips they put everything that is important to them. So it's really very sweet, very simplistic.
I love it.
You don't need to make this complicated. Because when we make things complicated, then it's kind of going against what we're trying to achieve in the first place, isn't it? And it's a lot about reflection, and it is like that the whole point of that mindfulness piece is really important. Is like, who are we doing this for? Why are we doing this? And how does this make us feel? So even having those three questions continually around, you're going to be able to notice that you're going to be able to have to use your intuition there. That what are you doing this for? And even if it is, monetary, the research shows that, if we are going to spend money on materials, more often than not, that's got to align again with our personality. So yes, we can go and spend money on a holiday if that's what it is, if we've got that travel bug and if that's what's really important to us. Or the people that love wine, go and buy that wine, but it's the experience of drinking the wine as well that's the important thing. It's not so much about the actual piece of material. So it's just a matter of just continually doing that and recognizing that and pausing and saying, is this allowing me to get closer to my element of happiness? And don't put it off. Everyone thinks that, when I do this and when we have this and when I pay off my mortgage and when I have, when I get to this level and when the kids are at school, it's going to be easy. No, don't look at happiness as if it's in the future. Look at happiness now. And, I always call it my thin slices of joy. I even looking at laughing when I'm drinking my coffee in the morning. We've got a kitten. And he's an absolute crack up, and he's outside and it's the sun shining and all the minor birds are swooping him and he doesn't even care. And I thought, take a leaf out of his book today, because he just goes to the flow. It's always entertaining to start the day, but it's those simple things in life that put a smile on my face and get me in a good state of mind.
Yeah, beautiful. I love how you're keeping it really simple, and I guess it's really about making common sense, common practice, because it's often not the case normally. We often naturally like to complicate things. Yes. So those three questions are really, really great ideas for people to run with and try and, I guess, do some reflection before the year's out or on the break. Natalie, thanks so much for your time. It was a great discussion again.
Always, Tom. Looking forward to next week.
Yes, we'll chat then. Thanks so much. Catch you later.
Take care, guys. Bye-bye.